King of Pop Michael Jackson has sold over 400 million records across the world. Popularly known as the King of Pop, Michael Jackson had a stellar career as a musician. The singer-songwriter was considered one of the greatest of all time, an achievement that is proven by the fact that, posthumously, he continues to release new music. Overall, Jackson has sold over 400 million records all over the world. Michael Jackson churned out some of the world's best-selling albums, including Thriller, whose release he actually initially had tried to stop. He also established himself as a great performer, gaining favor with billions of fans all over the world. Behind the scenes, Jackson leveraged his star power to secure unprecedented endorsement deals and own other artists' publishing rights, making him one of the most business-savvy musicians to date, and here's how that happened. Michael Jackson's first major celebrity endorsement deal. When Michael Jackson demanded a $5 million payment for his first-ever Pepsi campaign in 1983, he raised the bar for celebrity endorsements. The amount, which will be $15 million in 2022, was unheard of back then. Jackson's large salary was justifiable because Thriller had been released a year earlier. The theme of the campaign was New Generation, and Jackson had a hand in some of its development. In addition to rewording the singer's lyrics for Billie Jean, the campaign was an all-round affair that included store displays and tours. Thanks to Jackson's business genius, which he later doubled. Michael Jackson doubled his deal with Pepsi in the late 1980s, bringing his income to $10 million, as if demanding a $5 million fee wasn't enough. His next marketing campaign for the company included support for Michael Jackson's Bad World Tour and was now active in 20 countries. The tour earned an estimated $125 million, making it the second highest grossing tour of the 1980s. The Bad Tour set a record for the biggest audience attendance with 123 concerts overall, making it into the Guinness Book of Records. Michael Jackson secured other endorsement deals. Michael Jackson's contract with Pepsi, the largest endorsement deal ever seen at the time, did not stop him from promoting other companies. Jackson also signed endorsement contracts with Suzuki, Sony, and LA Gear during the 1980s. Although the million-dollar sponsorships were not as big as his long-term contract with Pepsi, the singer still made money by appearing in a variety of commercials. Failure was part of the business for Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson had some successful endorsement partnerships, but not all of them. The Billie Jean sneaker was developed in 1990 by Jackson in collaboration with LA Gear. According to estimates, the endorsement deal was worth $20 million, or about a fifth of the company's advertising budget. It was expected that LA Gear sales would skyrocket, considering that it was then the third largest athletic shoe brand, just behind Nike and Reebok. The outcome was not what was expected. Jackson's music efforts, whose releases were scheduled to coincide with the launch of the shoe line, were postponed after the poor performance of the Billie Jean. The company ultimately filed a lawsuit as a result of this. Michael Jackson's encounter with Paul McCartney. Early in the 1980s, Michael Jackson had a conversation with Paul McCartney, the lead singer of the Beatles, which changed his view on the music industry. What began as an intellectual exchange between two greats would eventually develop into a long friendship and ultimately a long feud. Jackson noticed while working with McCartney that he was earning just over $40 million every year owning the rights to other singers' music. "Have you got any advice?" he asked McCartney. "Yeah, look, this is what you've got to do. You're gonna make some great videos, you gotta get a really good manager because it's all gonna be coming in and it could go out if you don't, and you ought to think of getting into song publishing." Michael Jackson owned the rights to the Beatles' music. After taking Paul McCartney's advice to heart, Michael Jackson replied, "I'm going to buy yours." In spite of McCartney's laughter at the idea, Michael Jackson did purchase the rights to some of the Beatles' early works. Jackson purchased the music of Lennon and McCartney by purchasing ATV Music for an approximate $47.5 million. Later, he would sell half of his stock for $100 million. The Beatles were insistent that they keep their music off the radio. They turned down multiple requests to use them as advertisements because they wanted to keep them in excellent condition. Being the one that owned the rights to the music, Jackson did not share the same values, and what resulted was a rift between McCartney and Jackson. "That's just business," Paul McCartney said. Michael Jackson is earning income posthumously. Posthumously, Michael Jackson's estate is still making money. His CDs continue to be sold all over the world despite being the first artist to have top 10 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 chart for 5 decades. The Michael Jackson, This Is a documentary, which was supposed to be published at the end of a tour with the same name, was posthumously released after his passing and went on to become the best-selling documentary of all time. Jackson retained a 10% stake in ATV and ownership of his songs after Sony purchased ATV in 2016 for an estimated $750 million, which went to his children's trust. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about Michael Jackson's business tactics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.